Welcome to Monroe Chamber of Commerce and Industry's annual meeting for 2022. Our virtual event is one for the books for everybody, so thank you for your patience as we work our way through this. I'm Melissa Even, Executive Director, and along with Colette Walters, the assistant in the office, we are happy to serve you as the staff of the Monroe Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And although we're not able to meet in person, I hope that you find the messages that we provide you today helpful, informative, and a little bit entertaining once you get to the end. So thank you for your time, and it is an honor to serve you. We will be hearing from our past president, our current president, and our honored keynote speaker, Wade Goodsell, who is the executive director from WMC, the Wisconsin Manufacturer and Chamber Association for the state of Wisconsin. He's going to be sharing the Wisconsin 2035 report with us. There's very important information in there, and I hope you guys can all stick around to hear that from him. I'd like to start out and just talk about a couple of things that we're very proud of. The Chamber became and maintained the go-to organization that was there to support businesses in our community. Through the past 2 years, we really had to pivot what it meant and what was important for our members. So we are very proud of the fact that we have made many strides in making sure that our businesses are able to find support services and links and education and opportunities for them in a very changing world of business today. Our members have once again brought essential goods and services to global consumers as well as our local community. Attracting and retaining talented employees has taken on an even more important role in your daily operations. I think we have done many things to help us convert that, and you will see that through the messages that we hear. So what I would like to do now is welcome Al. He is our past president, and he's going to give us a message, and I will be back very soon.
Thanks, Melissa. I appreciate that, and appreciate everything that you've done over the past year, and have enjoyed working with you. What a strange year! What a strange couple years, right? With COVID coming in and mask on, mask off, and over the last year, it seems like you don't know from week to week what you're going to deal with. But we were fortunate, I think, in the last year with COVID and all the challenges to kind of get back on track, right? We helped many businesses out with the loans and the federal assistance programs and state assistance programs that were available. We got the welcome mural done. That got finished up this last spring, which was a project that Craig, our past president, had started along with both our Melissas. And we got that done and finished. We're still recruiting for additional bricks. So if you're interested in supporting that project and its future growth and endeavors, we ask that you check with the Chamber office on how to go about doing that. We got back to some in-person events. We got Business After 5 back. We got some lunch and learns back, a couple of educational programs. More importantly, we took care of our customers, and we made sure that they had the information they needed to get things done and to move forward. And hopefully 2022 is going to be even better years. So I'm excited about where the Chamber's going. I'm in my last year, which is somewhat bittersweet. After 6 years on the board, I've seen a lot of growth. I've seen a lot of change. I believe the organization is in a better position financially than when I came. I believe it's in a better position leadership-wise, both from a board aspect and from the office and operations aspect. Melissa and Colette have really done a great job. They've grown into their positions, and I think we're poised for a very positive future moving forward. Tracy, coming up behind me, is very committed to the organization, brings a lot of skills, a lot of attributes, and as a vice president, she was very complimentary to what I had. So I'm excited about where we're going with that. We have some new members. So some fresh blood coming on with new ideas and some exciting opportunities. So I encourage everyone to be a Chamber member in the business community. I encourage everyone who is a chamber member to encourage your employees to be ambassadors, to be board members. We're all in this together. It's a teamwork, and we can't make Monroe and the surrounding area thrive unless we're working together. So I thank everyone for their support over the last several years. I appreciate in advance your continued support for the chamber. And with that, I'm going to leave it over to your new incoming president, Tracy Meyer. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Al. I appreciate that intro. I've been a lifelong member of the Monroe community and worked at Colony Brands for the past 23 years as their senior benefits and safety manager. I joined the board in 2020, and I'm honored to be your chamber president and thankful for the talented staff, the dedicated board, and obviously our chamber members that have really been the heart of everything that we do. So thank you for joining us virtually today. I really hope this might be our last time having to do an annual meeting virtually. But first, I want to just quickly take a moment also. I wanted to extend a sincere thank you to Al Rufer for all that he has done for the chamber over the past 6 going on 7 years. Not only is he our outgoing president, but he served 2 separate terms as president of our board. He's been on our executive committee all but 1 of his 7 years on the board. He's provided strong leadership, has been dedicated to many hours to ensure the ongoing success of our organization. And I've always appreciated his desire to keep policies in order, preserve our positive financial position, especially during a pandemic. On a lighter note, I also understand Al was a big hit at one of our last tailgate parties with his Badger overalls and his festive beads. And so thanks for being a great support. And I think that event helped to show everyone that how much of enthusiasm you have for our members and the extra mile you'll go to support our organization. Again, thank you, Al, for the time, dedication, your mentorship to me as the incoming president. I have some big shoes to fill. I also want to thank our board members whose terms expired in 2021. This includes David Fry, the owner of David James Financial Group, Craig Fox, the VP of Finance at Orchid, and Joe Klein, the Senior Vice President and Senior Commercial Lender at the Bank of New Glarus, who's been our treasurer for multiple years. We're truly grateful. These outgoing members have volunteered their time to provide their guidance, their perspective, and their support to our organization, and we wish them well and hope that they continue to connect with us at our future chamber events. While it's always kind of sad to see some of our valued board members' terms expire, it does offer up some opportunity for some new members and new faces and business representatives to join our board. With that, I'd like to congratulate our newest board members, which include Scott Mosier, the VP and owner of Mosier & Associates, and Angie Parr, the branch manager of the Bank of New Glarus. I'm excited to have them bring their unique talents, their expertise, their perspective to our board. And I just want to thank them again for their volunteering to be on our board. Finally, I will not steal all of Melissa's thunder, but we have some really great projects and events coming up for 2022. And as the president, I'm thankful that our board is very supportive and sees the value in some newly formed subcommittees. The goal of the subcommittees will be to spend some additional time and efforts focusing on how we can continuously improve our resources and networking opportunities for our members. And we currently actually have 3 subcommittees formed. They include promoting and fostering connections among the chamber members. 2, we're going to have a committee on just providing additional valued education and training opportunities. And 3, advocating on important issues that impact our members. As a board, we know that these additional conversations, experiences, and input will result in continued enhancements of our services, connections, and our resources for our members. I appreciate the opportunity to serve as your president of the Monroe Chamber of Commerce. I hope that you'll reach out to Melissa, myself, or any of the board members if we can be additional resources for your business. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Al and Tracy, for your messages. And it is always great to have great leadership helping us to get our mission accomplished, and you both are doing a fantastic job. So thank you for that. I would like to point out that there are many people involved in making the Chamber of Commerce and Industry able to do what they do. And without our ambassador group, a lot of what we contribute to the community would not be possible. And I do want to just mention how important these ambassadors are. They come from every walk of life, they come from every industry, and they make it their mission to share the importance of the Chamber of Commerce. And I'm very pleased to recognize those ambassadors now. If it weren't for them, our Business After Fives, our golf outings, our State Line Expos, and other events like that just wouldn't possibly happen without their contributions. So thank you very much. And at this time, this is one of my favorite parts of the year. I would like to offer special recognition to our Ambassador of the Year. Amanda Gerber is with Astor Assisted Living, and Amanda has done so much for the community. Her career is based on protecting some of the most at-risk people in our community, and it's really amazing to see how easily she is able to manage safety and wellness in her community. We really want to give her a shout out. We grabbed this really great photo of her and her husband at our Business After 5 at the Greene County Fairgrounds. And if you know Amanda at all, you will always know she's got this same smile on her face. She's just amazing, and we just want to give her a little shout out and thank you for her contributions. On that note, I'd like to turn our attention to what you can expect to see from the Monroe Chamber of Commerce and Industry in 2022. We are happy to announce that we will have an in-person State Line Home Expo. That is going to be April 2nd and 3rd at the Slice Arena, and we are looking forward to a very encompassing local event. We are focusing on home, garden, and leisure industries that can be seen in the State Line. We're very excited about that. Our Greetings from Monroe mural project, as Al mentioned before, wrapped up at the end of the year last year, and we are ready and willing and able to do our dedication and thank you for everybody that contributed to the mural project. Look forward to an update on that coming spring of 2022. Once again, we will be returning our murder mystery tours. They are very popular with history buffs, with mystery buffs, just people who in general are looking for something fun, safe, and a welcoming activity to invite people into Monroe. And I think that pairs very nicely with our Greetings from Monroe message. Great news, our 14th annual golf outing is going to take place. We are also excited to announce that we will be holding this year's golf outing at the Edelweiss Chalet Country Club in New Glarus, and going forward we will be alternating our golf event between New Glarus and Monroe. We are very pleased to have two substantial supporting golf courses in our community, and we want to show the advantage of both of those golf courses, so we're looking forward to that. On a little more serious note, as Tracy mentioned, we will be focusing on tensions on important things that are affecting our business community. 3 of those major initiatives are housing, childcare, and supporting issues relating to poverty. So within those committees that we have formed, we will be addressing those things through the way that we are educating our chamber members, what initiatives we are taking on, and how we are offering support through the larger community and their needs. So we are looking forward to bringing more information to you as the year goes through. I would like to remind everybody that our monthly newsletter is full of news and event information. Last year we began to make your memberships work for you segment, and that highlights some of the more frequently needed information for our chamber members. Things like our careers page, or bulk rate mailing, and also member-to-member discounts that are available. Look for those types of news items in our monthly newsletter when you see that. If you are not currently receiving that, make sure that you sign up for that. There's a lot of valuable information in there. One of the other highlights that I do want to mention is that our Monroe Money continues to be a very popular option, and this really, again, is enforcing our Shop Local initiatives. We thank everybody who supports the Monroe Money program. If you purchase Monroe Money and accept Monroe Money, it is contributing to our economy, and we are very thankful for each and every one of you that accepts or purchases Monroe Money. Finally, speaking about our financials, our audit committee conducted our annual internal audit, and we had very favorable news coming out of that. We stand on a very firm financial standing. Anybody who is interested in a detailed financial report can reach out to myself or Colette at the office, and we are able to get that information to you. And lastly, just as we wrap up, we do want to keep everybody moving along. I would personally like to thank every single one of you for all the contributions that you do to make my job so easy, or appear easy. We have a lot of support, and without our members, what we are able to accomplish is not possible. And again, I thank you for that. If you're sitting at home, lift a glass, cheers to you. And finally, I would like to introduce Wade Goodsell with the WMC, our keynote speaker, and his report on Wisconsin 2035. Any information that you would like sent to you directly, you can just reach out to me at the office, and I'll make sure that you get a copy of anything you're interested in. Thank you, everybody, and here's to a great new year.
Thanks, Melissa, and thanks for the opportunity to join with you today. Really appreciate the partnership, Melissa, of you and your team and the Chamber, whether it's through WMC, WCC, our Chamber of Commerce Executives Program, as well as the WMC Foundation. So thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about our Wisconsin 2035 report, the business community's vision for the future of the state. And I thought I would just start with a few quotes that I've heard from business leaders across the state. Slow population growth is a huge weakness. The K-12 education system needs to be improved. High school graduates need to be work-ready or tech school, university-ready. They need the right educational focus. I would call that a weakness. Moving on to the next quote, something else that I would consider a weakness. People or lack thereof need to retain talent. Talent attraction is key. Minimize government regulations and mandates. That was told to me in February of this past year, of 2021, so over 12 months ago. So ironic talking about mandates even a year ago. Again, I would consider this a weakness, maybe a threat. We're teaching students the economy is a fixed pie. You have to take from someone else and give to them. Going on to the next quote. This is certainly a strength. Wisconsin's #1 asset is our people. And then just a few more quotes as we lead in today. I think this you could categorize as an opportunity. Advancing our manufacturing advantage makes sense. Make your strength better and continue to improve and advance it. Build on strengths. Don't dwell on your weaknesses. Interestingly enough, that was told to me from a non-manufacturer. Again, I would consider this a strength, also an opportunity. The manufacturing base in Wisconsin is a strength. If you don't make anything, where is your value? And then finally, as only a manufacturer can say, and I certainly would call this a strength, we aren't California. So I thought those 7 quotes were illustrative of what I heard last year. And I started 2021, it was death by 1,000 Zooms. Well, actually maybe only 80 Zooms. But I had a chance to do a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, with business leaders, private sector leaders, governmental leaders, academic leaders, philanthropic leaders, and even a few union leaders here in the state. And pretty quickly I started to hear themes as I asked those same questions. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths and weaknesses in the here and now of Wisconsin and our state economy, and then opportunities and threats as we look out to 2035, looking out a decade and a half ahead. So on December 9th, we took the input that we heard during those 80 interviews and we released a report that we call, the report that I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes overviewing, Wisconsin 2035. And when we think about Wisconsin in 2035, our state and our economy and economic opportunity, there's two lenses of which I would view the report. One being personal and one being professional. On a professional lens, I look at that when I think about the future of the state and the state economy, the status quo is regression. It's not momentum. If we are not improving as a state where we are, someone else is going to be passing us by. The second way that I look at this report is through a very personal lens. And that very personal lens is through the eyes of my 4.5-year-old daughter, Tegan Goodsell. When I think about Tegan, she's in 4K this year. You do the quick math. She's going to be graduating from high school here in the state as part of the Wisconsin class of 2035. What opportunities will exist for her? What opportunities are going to exist in this state? So that's both a professional and also a personal lens that I view 2035 as we think through this report. So again, I mentioned it was death by 80 Zooms in Q1 of last year, gathering input as we wrote this report. We heard many things on this report. We heard about healthcare cost. We heard about regulations. We heard about government mandates. We heard about woke culture. We heard about workforce and tax and K-12 education, infrastructure, broadband, and a litany of other issues. But pretty quickly, three themes merged to the front. I don't think any of them are surprising to you. Workforce, tax, and K-12 education. So let's dig a little bit deeper on that first theme of workforce. When we talk about workforce, there's two factors at play. Many of you are very familiar with this. There's a skills gap and there's a people gap or a body gap. For those like me that have been doing this well over a decade now, you look back 10 years ago, coming out of the Great Recession, we had what we call the workforce paradox. We had a high number of people unemployed, but yet our members were telling us across the state we can't find qualified people. Well, now you fast forward a decade, and what we have is companies in all 72 counties in this state hiring, and certainly skills gap is still an issue, but more so the body gap is much more pronounced. To illustrate the body gap, if you logged into the Job Center of Wisconsin in December of 2021, you would have seen that there's 130,000 available jobs in this state. In a state of 5.8 million, 130,000 available job openings, pretty good. The dichotomy, and what I think really illustrates the body gap, there's only 50,000 job seekers in the state of Wisconsin. Again, 130,000 available jobs and only 50,000 job seekers. That's why you see help wanted signs throughout this state. Well, let's take a look at what we learned during the pandemic. During the pandemic, it certainly wasn't a baby boom, it was a baby bust. Those of you that have had a chance to meet our president and CEO, Kurt Bauer at WMC, he often tells the joke what we need to help with the body gap in this state. We need more blizzards and blackouts because we know it takes 19 years to make an 18-year-old. Well, Kurt, that may be the case, but what we certainly don't need is a global pandemic because what we saw last year over year, there was a 4% drop in birth rates. Fertility rates fell to 1.64, and total births were the lowest in the United States since 1979. So the 2020 demographic data wasn't encouraging. In fact, it was actually discouraging. If you look at our biannual WMC CEO survey, Wisconsin CEOs told us in July of 2021 when asked, are you having trouble hiring employees? Again, I'm sure you are not very surprised to see this. 86% said yes. Only 14% said no. By the way, I'd love to meet that 14% that aren't having workforce challenges. So as you think about the challenge of population and of skilled labor and of our ability to attract and retain talent, geeks like me, we paid a lot of attention to the 2020 census data, comparing 2010 to 2020. If you look at the census data from 2010 to 2020, the US population grew by 7.4%. However, here in Wisconsin, our population didn't even grow by half of that, only growing at 3.6%. Zooming in on that, if you look at our 72 counties across the state, again, that same lens, 2010 to 2020, over the last decade in the 2020 census data, 23 counties in this state lost population. Net loss of people, not just working age, net loss of people. That's concerning. So again, in our biannual CEO survey, we asked the question, do you support or oppose a taxpayer-funded talent attraction campaign aimed at drawing more people into Wisconsin and filling available jobs? 73% of Wisconsin executives said yes. One of the things that I'll mention in regards to talent attraction that I think is just really important to understand, under the leadership of Secretary Hogan, Deputy Secretary Brown, the Walker administration, Wisconsin was best in country for talent attraction. The Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation had won national awards from the International Economic Development Council, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Hiring Our Heroes Initiative, other groups. We had a three-pronged approach to recruiting people into the state. One, let's bring military veterans back to Wisconsin. If you've served your country, Wisconsin's one of the best states in the nation for veterans benefits. The U.S. Department of Defense will help pay for your final move as you're mustering out of the military. That was plank one of our talent attraction campaign veterans. Plank two, and again, being in a college community, plank two was let's bring back those with roots, whether it's to the UW system, the private colleges, the technical colleges, let's bring back those with academic or family roots here. And then plank three was attracting millennials from other Midwestern cities into the state. Unfortunately, under the Evers administration, WEDC has backed away from talent attraction, whether that's in regards to UW alum, veterans, or millennials from other Midwestern cities. The legislature allocated funding. WEDC has not used that funding. That's something we're going to continue to challenge them to do, because going back a few slides, looking at the demographics in this state, we need to be additive in terms of population growth. So if you look ahead with me to 2023 and you think through, if we had a talent attraction campaign, what would that look like? What would we possibly sell? Well, data has shown 4 out of 10, when they move, seek economic opportunity. The top reasons people move are love, family, economic opportunity, and jobs. If you remember the slide that in Wisconsin we have 130,000 available jobs, I think that's a pretty compelling narrative. Furthermore, as you think about cost of living, when you look at the cost of living here in the state, we're 19% lower than the West Coast, 8.1% lower than the national average, and 23% lower than the East Coast. Our cost of living is competitive. We have a product to sell here. And then again, if you look at our 9 largest, whether it's metropolitan or micropolitan areas, 9 of our 11 largest micropolitan and metropolitan areas in the state have a cost of living below the national average. I think that's a pretty compelling narrative. Moving forward, in the final infographics I'll share on this, talking about quality of life. U.S. News and World reports, when you look at overall rankings, Wisconsin ranks 8th overall on quality of life and 9th overall when it comes to economic opportunity and fiscal stability. Again, you may think, Wade, fiscal stability is nothing to brag about. Think about our neighbors on our southern border in Illinois. They have $160 billion in unfunded pension liabilities. Today's unfunded pension liability is tomorrow's tax increase. Due to prudent fiscal management here in the state, we have a rainy day fund of almost $1 billion, and we're projected to have a budget surplus over the next budget biennium of over $2 billion. So staying on the theme of workforce, as you look at labor force participation rates, you may see the drastic drop in labor force participation rate over the last 3 decades. What's still interesting is Wisconsin's labor force participation rate today, when compared to the national average, is 5 points higher. We consistently rank in the top 5 or 10 in the country for those in the working age population that's 16 to 65, able-bodied 16 to 65 in the workforce. So again, if you compare that, in September of 2021, our labor force participation rate, 2/3 of people were in the workforce, 66.6%. If you look back to almost 25 years to October of 1997, that number was at 74.5%. So again, this isn't 1997. I'm not still in the 4th grade. Many of you say, Wade, we'll never see labor force participation rates again like that. Well, if you do the quick math, if Wisconsin had the same labor force participation rate today that we had then, that would be an extra 370,000 Wisconsinites in the workforce. For every 1% our labor force participation rate increases, that's an extra 45,000 Badgers into the workforce. I think that's something to consider. So that's a little bit on workforce. Let's talk a little bit about our second theme, and that's tax. When we talk tax, there's an interconnectivity between workforce and tax, and certainly there's an interconnectivity between workforce and education. When you look at Wisconsin, we're thankful to have friends in the legislature that have been aggressively in passing and defending things like the manufacturing and agricultural tax credit. But when you look at the least tax-friendly states for the middle class, Wisconsin is number 6 on that list. As you can see in the infographic, we're neighbored on that list with New York and New Jersey. You probably have figured this out. Anytime you talk about tax, you do not want to be in the same neighborhood as New York and New Jersey. When it comes to property taxes, we're the 8th highest in the US. And when it comes to state and local income tax, we are still the 11th highest in the country. So certainly some room to grow as it relates to tax. I previously mentioned the 2020 census data, Wisconsin's meager population growth in comparison to the rest of the country. Again, geeks like me, we really look at where are people moving to and where are people moving from. If you look at the 2020 census data, not only are people migrating to warm states or sunny states, people are also migrating to states like South Dakota. And for every 1 person that leaves a low tax state, 4 people move in. For every 2.5 people that leave a high tax state, only 1 person moves in. Let me mention that one more time. For every 1 person that leaves a low tax state, 4 people move in. For every 2.5 people that leave a high tax state, only 1 person moves in. As you look at the census data, it's clear. People aren't just migrating for weather, they're migrating for quality of life and, more importantly, cost of living. Personal income tax and tax rates play a huge role in that. We think, and probably the leading takeaway from this report, we think it's time for Wisconsin to have a serious conversation and to take a really hard look at repealing the personal income tax. There's 8 states in the country that have repealed the personal income tax. You can think about Texas, Florida, Tennessee, a litany of others. Yes, they have warmer climates, but here we can't control our climate. But what if we were the first state in the Midwest to repeal the personal income tax? Do you think that would help us to attract talent from other states? Do you think that would help us to retain talent within your companies? As you look at the 2020 census data, I think it's clear. Being the first state in the Midwest to repeal the personal income tax would not only help the 90% of pass-through entities in Wisconsin that pay the tax, it would help with the workforce problem here in the state. It would help us in recruiting and retaining talent here in Wisconsin. So let's talk about a potential avenue to do that. As you look at taxes, you saw we're high in state and local income tax, we're high in property tax, but when you look at sales tax, Wisconsin, we're actually pretty competitive. As you compare us to 7 of our neighboring states here in the Midwest, we have the lowest income tax rate. If you were to repeal the personal income tax and slightly adjust the sales tax, I think that could be a responsible way to create economic growth through corporate investment, but also through inbound migration into our state. And then finally, let's talk a little bit about education. Certainly there's a connectivity between workforce and education. You just heard me articulate the case, the connectivity between workforce and tax. When you look at education funding in K-12, last year in general purpose revenue, GPR, in the state budget, we invested $14.2 billion into K-12 education. When you look at that through a 10-year lens, we've seen a dramatic increase in K-12 education funding. we've seen a 33% increase from 10 billion to 14.2 billion, or at least a 33% increase over the last 10 years. So as we've drastically invested much more of general purpose revenue of state tax collections into K-12 education, what proficiency results have we seen? Well, unfortunately, English and language arts proficiencies have diminished and now are only at 33%, and math proficiency is again only at 33%. That's a 10 and a 5-point decline from where they were a decade ago. My final reference to our biannual CEO survey: do you support or oppose expanding technical training opportunities for high school students in place of general ed classes like language arts, foreign languages, or others? 87% of Wisconsin executives say yes. At the State Chamber Foundation, we're not anti-education funding. We think it would be really beneficial for the state to look at targeting much more funding specifically to STEM education, specifically to career counselors, not just guidance counselors, because if you're familiar with K-12 in the schools, the guidance counselors already have a lot on their plate. In the WMC Foundation, we work with about 5,000 kids a year, predominantly high schoolers, a little bit middle schoolers in our Wisconsin Business World program. And we want to teach the students not only is business a force for good, we want to teach them that regardless of where you are in the state, in any 72 county, there's economic opportunity. Whether it's to the military, to the workforce, to the 2-year or the 4-year, there's opportunities ahead of you. By having K-12 invest into career counselors, I think that would really assist in students to know those different career paths and different economic opportunities in front of them. Finally, looking at continuing to invest in dual enrollment programs, and then considering, if you've spent any time around districts, they'll tell you how hard it is to find those tech ed teachers, to find some STEM curriculum teachers when you compete with industry on wages and talent. Well, let's take a look at redoing the certificate process for education, that maybe those from industry could come in and teach directly into our schools. Again, many of you are probably familiar with this, but when you look at the median wages for STEM versus non-STEM, STEM careers on average pay $90,000. Non-STEM occupations, $40,000. I'll give you one more infographic to further illustrate the point. Average pay for the skilled trades in Wisconsin. Average comp for manufacturing careers, nearly $75,000 a year. Average compensation for an electrician, anywhere from $61,000 to $72,000 a year. And finally, for a plumber, anywhere from $66,000 to $80,000 a year. I'd love to know when that data is from, because if you've called a plumber recently, it is not inexpensive. So you heard me a little bit on those three themes: workforce, tax, and K-12 education. And so we get to this point of, so what does it mean, and now what do we do? As I mentioned, this is the business community's blueprint for the future of the state economy. We've heard input from governmental leaders, from academic leaders, but it's our opinion that if the business community doesn't own the future of the state's economy, no one else is going to. So just 5 tactical recommendations. 1, we need to reinstate and amplify our talent attraction efforts in this state. Yes, we certainly have a skills gap. We have a body gap. We need to be proactive in bringing people into the state of Wisconsin. Secondly, we need to repeal the personal income tax. We can't control the weather in the state. We can control our tax environment and cost of living. I think it's time in 2022 and moving into 2023 to have a responsible conversation with the necessary stakeholders on how can we be a more attractive place for talent to stay and come to. I think the data is clear. Low tax or no tax states for personal income tax are high growth states. We need to add Wisconsin to that list. Third, we need to continue to educate students on career opportunities. You heard my passion for career counselors. I think we need to take a look at investing much more targeted general purpose revenue funding into that. Fourth, expanding technical education and dual enrollment classes. That goes along with both the skills gap but also career awareness. And fifth, we need to refocus education on core subjects: reading, writing, and STEM curriculum. I heard from members across the state, they had concerns that whether it was educators or districts or schools, that they may be a bit wayward in terms of teaching on broader issues. What I heard was a passion for the schools to refocus. So let me close with this. I started with 7 quotes, let me close with one. If we can't figure out the labor, 2035 never comes for us. So whether you're a company treading water, just looking to survive in this economic environment, you're a company that's thinking through, how am I going to have the people and the talent needed to grow, whether it's through that professional lens, or it's, as I mentioned, through that personal lens of having a daughter that's going to enter the workforce and wanting her to have a state plentiful with economic opportunity in 2035. We're going to be active continuing this conversation throughout 2022 and into 2023. So again, Melissa and the team, thank you so much for the opportunity to present today, to share the business community's vision for the future of the state's economy, but not just the business community's vision. Because as I mentioned, we need governmental leaders, academic leaders, philanthropic, Chamber of Commerce. We need everyone as we build consensus for the future of the Wisconsin economy. So thank you for having me. If I can be a resource, if you have questions, input, challenges, I would love to hear from you. The best email address to reach me at is wgoodsell@wmc.org. Thank you.